Howdy champs, my name is Mohit. Guys, this tutorial will show you the 3 different ways in which you can use CSS, the cascading style sheets. Okay, guys, let me show you a slideshow that I made in PowerPoint. Let me initiate the slideshow. Right, now there are 3 types of CSS styles as I just said. Okay, namely, let's talk about the first one, inline styles. Now the inline styles are styles that are written directly in the tag of the document. Inline styles affect only the tag they are applied to. For example, href whatever style is equal to text decoration none. So what has happened out here is we have used the anchor tag, okay, which has an href attribute, which also has the style attribute. Now we use the style attribute to apply the inline style, and through the style attribute I'm telling Dreamweaver, okay, and I'm telling HTML that beg your pardon, that the link should not have an underline. Okay, the default way the links appear is that they have an underline. Now through the style attribute and making the text decoration none, I'm making sure that doesn't happen. So this is an example of inline style. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, now embedded styles, also called internal styles, and let's see why they're called internal styles. Because they are embedded in the head of the document, of the HTML document itself. Okay, embedded styles will affect only that specific document in which they are contained in the head of the document, and not any other document, right? What you can see out here is that you have an opening style tag with a type attribute, okay, and you have the closing style tag out here, okay. Sandwiched in between there is a rule for the paragraph which is making it have a specific color. So this is an example of embedded or internal styles. Right, let's move on to the third slide. Now let's talk about the external styles or the external style sheets. The external styles are written in a separate document altogether. Okay, so they're not merged in the HTML document as was the case with embedded. All right, so they have a separate CSS file, and then they are linked or connected to the HTML document. And external styles or external style sheets can affect any document they are attached to. We can make a CSS file, and then we can attach to n number of HTML documents, any number of HTML documents. And the way to do it is that we use the link tag, okay, with the rel or the relationship attribute, which is always made equal to style sheet. The type is always text/CSS, and where you see the href attribute is where you need to put the name of the style sheet. Okay, so out here in this example, styles.css. okay, now the CSS best practices recommends that you use external style sheet only to get the most benefit. Right, so guys, what I'm going to do is to illustrate this slideshow, I'm going to use Dreamweaver. I'm going to show you one by one how to actually go about it. So first of all, guys, let me show you my local site folder on the desktop. Now this is the local site folder where all my assets will reside. Okay, let me open it up for you. Guys, here you can actually see an example of external style sheet. So my CSS is a cascading style sheet, as you can note out here. Okay, the index.html is the HTML document. The images folder is actually empty. There's nothing inside it. So guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to destroy the CSS and the index. I'm going to redo it and show you how this was actually done. So let me select both these files, hit the delete button on my keyboard, and let's get started. Guys, I'm using Adobe Dreamweaver CS55. Okay, let me hit on the file new button. Okay, The page type is HTML. The layout I'm going to select as none. It's okay. Let me go with the latest doc type, which is HTML5, and I'm going to hit the create button straight away. Okay. Now guys, I'm using the split view and the workspace is classic. Righto. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Now guys, the first style that I'm going to create will be an external style sheet. Okay. And let's see how we can actually do that. So guys, here under the CSS Styles tab, we have this plus button to create a new CSS rule. I'm going to hit that. Okay. I'm going to drop down the contextual selector and select tag. The first rule that I'm going to create will affect the body of the HTML document. Okay, so I'm going to choose body. Okay, there are so many tags that I can choose. By default, body pops up first. I'm going to choose body, and where you see rule definition written, you have an option to either select this document only, which means if I select this option, it means that I'm using an internal, I'm creating an internal or an embedded style. But that is not what I'm going to do. I'm going to create an external style sheet. So I'm going to drop down. I'm going to select new style sheet. Now when I say new style sheet, basically will ensure that I'm creating an external style sheet. Alright, so I'm going to say OK. Alright, and you can see out here that it's going to create an external style sheet, a CSS file, and it's going to save it in my local site folder, which is lying on the desktop, guys, where we just went and deleted the two files, the HTML and the CSS file. Okay, now Dreamweaver is prompting me to give a file name, so I'm going to call it my styles. Okay, I don't need to suffix the .css, which will happen automatically. I just need to click on the save button, guys, and then I get a dialog box which wishes to know the various rules or the declarations that I would want to use with my external style sheet. Also guys, have a look out here in the CSS panel that a new rule for the body has been generated. Not only that, next to the source code you can actually see that we have my styles.css file generated. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the background category and I'm going to select a background color. Okay, now I don't know how many of you actually know it, but you can use 147 color names to generate colors. So I'm going to go with the corn silk. It's a very mild color. Okay, and good to use for the body, and I'm going to straight away say OK. Alright, so if I click on the mystyles.css file, guys, you can actually have a look that it's actually generated a rule or a declaration for the body. The background color has been set to corn silk, and this is how corn silk actually looks, guys. Okay, let me save the source code. Let me save the HTML document. Let me click on the save button, and usually the first file that we create is always index.html, so I'm going to call it index. Alright, so guys, have a look out here, the one line of code that has been generated, and this is it. Okay, so we have the link tag, we have the href attribute, which is pointing to the mystyles.css file. We have the rel, or the relationship attribute, telling Dreamweaver that it's a style sheet of the type text CSS. Alright, so this one single line has been generated and it has been inserted in the head of the document. Okay, this is the opening and this is the closing HTML tags. These are the opening and the closing tags. This is the opening head tag. This is the closing head tag. Alright, and these are the opening and the closing body tags. So the link tag always inserts itself in the head of the document. Alright, okay, so so under the CSS Styles tab, you can actually see that we have a rule created for the body. Okay, not only that guys, if I were to go inside my local site folder right now, open it up for you, you can see the two files, index and my styles, have actually come back. Right, let me go back to Dreamweaver. Okay, now guys, I'm going to create an internal style for the body, and I'm going to give a different color, which means that there will be a conflict. And let's see what happens in such a case. What if in fact, let's do it, and we'll see what I'm trying to say. So what I'm going to do guys is I'm going to click on this new CSS rule button once again in Dreamweaver. Okay, I'm going to select the tag selector. Basically the tag contextual selector redefines an HTML element. I'm going to select the tag, and automatically the rule that's going to be created now will be applied to the body. Okay, although we can apply it to any tag, and but this time I'm going to make a change. Instead of saying that I would want the rule to be inside the mystyles.css external style sheet, I'm going to choose this document only. Basically I'm creating an internal or an embedded style. You're right. I'm going to say okay. And I'm going to go to the background category, but this time for the background color, instead of choosing corn silk, I'm going to choose mint cream. Mint cream is a very mild color. Mint cream. Okay, and please notice the change of the color guys. I'm going to say okay, and so mint cream is basically just very close to the color white. Okay, so it's kind of bluish greenish, very mild shade. So, and have a look out here. Lines 9, 10, 11 and 12 have been generated, and they have come just under the link tag. Again, the internal style or the embedded style has been generated inside the opening and the closing head tags guys. Have a look out here. So this bit or this chunk of code was generated moments ago when I created the internal style sheet. Okay, and have a look under the CSS styles. We have an external style sheet, mystyles.css, and we have an internal style, alright, which is again embedded in the head of the section. But what has happened out here is that the internal style has taken precedence over the external styles. Okay, so that's a lesson learned well. Okay, so here we have in line number 9 the opening style tag with the type attribute, and we have the closing style tag out here. Now I'm going to play a trick. I'm going to copy this bit, okay, Control C, and I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to place it again, paste it rather. Okay, and where you see the color mint cream, I'm going to change the color let's say to a different color, blanked almond. Okay, blanked, BLANCHED, I'm sorry, almond. So basically I'm changing the color. So what I've done is I have duplicated the rule for the body. It's lying in the external style sheet, it's lying in the internal style sheet, but in the internal style or the embedded style I've actually duplicated the rule. I have a point to prove. Let me hit the refresh button and can actually see that the color of the body is actually changed. Let me give it a title, how to use CSS. Okay, let me save the document up. Let me take a preview in, let's say, Google Chrome after saving the changes to the file. Okay, so guys, you can have a look that now what's happened out here, the external style sheet had a color to show. That's but what happened, the internal style sheet actually took precedence. And even in the internal style sheet, let me go back to Dreamweaver, the rule that was generated last actually takes precedence, takes the upper hand, dominates everything else. Okay, so this is how things actually work. Alright, when it comes to a conflict between the internal and the external style sheet, and even when it's an internal style sheet, you write the rule twice. The rule that was written last takes precedence over the rule that was written earlier. Okay, and I will look in the CSS styles, guys. You have the external style sheet out here and the internal style sheet out here. We have two rules for the body. All right, pretty cool. Okay, next, guys, I'm gonna type something in the design area. I'm gonna say I am heading 1. Okay, and I'm gonna select this bit. Okay, I'm gonna change the format to a heading 1. All right, just after that, guys, I'm gonna write a paragraph. So we have the opening p tag, we have the closing p tag, and I'm gonna write I am a paragraph, GRAPH. Right, I'm gonna hit the refresh button and let's see how things look like right now. Let's take a preview in Google Chrome first after saving the changes to the file. So this is the heading 1, this is the para. Now, guys, what is happening out here is both the paragraph tag and the h1 tag are examples of block elements. Block elements create a space above and below them. They create a line break above and below them. They do not allow another element to sit next to it, adjacent to it. They are dominant, narcissistic in nature. Okay, and paragraph tag is also an example of block level element. So is the h1 tag. That is why the formation is top bottom and not left right. Anyways, let me get back to Dreamweaver. Okay, and I'm gonna write now I'm gonna show you an example of again an example of embedded styles. So what I'm gonna do is, guys, I'm gonna click on the new styles button. Okay, and out here I'm going to choose the tag selector. I'm going to select P for paragraph. Okay, I'm going to make sure that the rule will be defined inside this document only, which is that I'm creating an internal style, not an external style. All right, this rule will apply to the paragraph, and let me say okay. And what I'm going to do is, let me say I would want the color to be, let's say, a #039. I'm going to say okay. Alright, you can actually see that the color of the paragraph has actually changed to a blue color. Okay, and let's see what has actually happened in the code area. So if I were to go and check what is going on, these 3 lines of code have been generated, whereas in the external style sheet nothing has happened. It's just the way it was. Okay, let me save things up. Alright, so we created a rule for the paragraph. This was the color. Now I'm going to show you what will happen if I were to create an inline style for the paragraph itself. What's going to happen in that case? So what I'm going to do is, since inline styles are created inside the opening tag itself, so I'm going to locate the opening paragraph tag, which is out here, guys. Okay, and inside which, guys, I'm going to pass in the style attribute. The style attribute and the color property, which will be responsible for changing the font color. Okay, I'm going to click the color palette. I'm going to select a different color, which is a #900. So, guys, this is how you can actually alright, so what has happened out here is we have an internal or embedded style for the paragraph tag, and we also have an inline we have created an inline style for the paragraph tag. Now how does this actually affect things? Because again there is a conflict. We have 2 rules for the paragraph tag. One is an embedded or an internal rule. Okay, the other one is an inline rule, an inline style using the style attribute. So let's save things up and let's take a preview in Google Chrome to check, to make sure that what's actually going on out here. So, guys, you can actually see that the rule that has taken precedence is the inline style has actually taken precedence, or the upper hand. Okay, so lesson to learn out here is that the inline styles, whenever there's a conflict, override the internal rules, and internal rules will override the external rules. So this is a lesson learned well. Not only that, the rules, if there are two rules, the ones that were created later will override the ones that were created a little earlier, right? So these are certain examples that we have just seen. All right, and have a look out here in the CSS styles panel. My styles.css is the external style sheet. Using these styles opening and the closing tags, we have used internal or embedded styles for the body and for the paragraph, right? Cool. Let me show you a few more examples of rules out here. Okay, now the moment I click on the plus button, let's see what has happened out here. By default, Dreamweaver understands that I want to create a rule for the paragraph, and it has actually chosen compound contextual selector. It thinks that is because the paragraph inside the body, so the rule that will be created right now will apply to the paragraph which is inside the body. An example of descendant selector, okay, the paragraph being inside the body. Anyways, the rule that I would want to create is not a compound rule. Let's say I would want to create a rule for the, let's create a compound rule only, but let me just make a change out here. Let's say I would want a rule to be created for h1 plus p. Now this is an example of adjacent selector. Now what this means is this rule will apply only to those paragraphs which have an h1 element just before them, okay? And let's see how this actually affects the document. So let me straight away and notice out here I'm going to create an internal rule, guys, which will affect only this document. Let me say okay, and let's say I would want the text transformation to be an uppercase. Let me say okay straight away, and let me go to the split view, and you can have a look out here, guys, that the adjacent selector has actually affected the paragraph in such a way that all the letters have been capitalized. And let's see the rule that was just generated. Let me go to the code view. So h1 plus p, text transformation uppercase, and an internal or an embedded style was generated in the closing and the opening style tags, which has the type attribute. Okay, let me take a look in the browser. So this is how things look like right now, right? And guys, I'm gonna show, before I actually wind this tutorial, I'm gonna show you a small trick. Now guys, there may be situations when you don't want the heading 1 to sit in a separate line. It sits in a separate line because it's a block level element, guys. Block level elements do not allow other elements to sit beside them, okay? So is there a way to counter it? Yes, there is. I can actually turn the block level element to be an inline element, and let's see how we can actually do that. So what I can do is I can show you an example of an inline style once again. So I can locate the opening h1 tag out here. Let me give a space. Let me say style. All right, and after that I'm going to say display. Okay, I'm going to set the display to an inline. All right, and let me show you a preview to see if any changes have actually taken place. No, they have not. I'll tell you why. Because not only is the h1 or the heading 1 an inline a block level element, but so is the paragraph. So I'll have to make the change for the paragraph as well. So out here we have an inline style. I'm going to add something to that. I'm going to say a semicolon, then I'm going to say display. I'm going to add one more declaration and set it to inline again. Alright, and now you can actually see that they are sitting left to right. Let me show you a preview in Google Chrome after saving the changes. So there we are. I've changed both block level elements to inline elements, which allows them to which allows space for the other inline element to sit next to it. So guys, I hope this attempt was a good one to show you how to use the different styles, the external style sheets, the embedded or the internal styles, and the inline styles. And you also saw that when there is a conflict, how which are the rules that override the other rules, right? So the inline styles actually override the internal styles, which can override the external style sheet. All right, so I hope you learned something from this tutorial, and hope to see you very soon with yet another Dreamweaver tutorial. You have a good day, guys. Bye bye. Peace.